We got to.
What's going on? It's Bob from Olympusiron here with Steve Reeves and Jerry Ward from BioS3Training. We're talking about today another competition table here with Steve Reeves and Jerry. We were fortunate enough to have him. He's actually visiting for Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody. But we're going to be talking about cutting water and the use of sodium close to a competition. So I'll have you guys take it. You guys were actually having a conversation before we were doing this about sodium and how they were taking it.
Yeah, we were talking about people that are dieting for competitions, and you know, a lot of the mistakes people make, especially more beginners that want to compete and start competing, tend to think that they have to eat no sodium foods throughout the whole diet, and that's not the case. You know, sodium is really important to consume. It's an electrolyte, and you need to consume X amount of sodium a day, every day in your diet. And so it's something that you certainly should not be cutting out in your diet. That's something you wait till the end to cut out. I mean, water loss, you can lose water in a day. I mean, it's not a problem. We're not worrying about the sodium right now. We're worrying about getting rid of body fat. So, and Jerry can certainly jump in anytime.
I've definitely found that most people, I'm not saying everybody, because I think we're all in agreement that not everything works for everybody.
No, not at all.
And, you know, we used to sit in this basement years ago and sit down and talk about all this shit like this and go over and over trying to figure out, well, why didn't this work? Why didn't that work? Most people don't drink enough water when they're taking in high amounts of sodium. Now, sodium is, I forget which one's positive, which one's negative. Sodium's positive, water's negatively charged. When the water's pulling out of you, it pulls that excess sodium out of you. So I think back in the day, people just weren't drinking enough water, and they were eating enough sodium, and they were retaining water. So they would just cut the sodium starting, 12 weeks out. They're like, oh, I'm starting a contest diet. I got to boil my chicken, not put any sodium on anything. And that was like an old school mentality. Well, later on, we found that, you didn't get a pump. You couldn't train as hard. You were feeling exhausted 10 weeks out. You're cutting all the sodium.
You're
cramping up. I mean,
yeah,
sodium is it's an electrolyte. I mean, you need it.
It's correct, and water is extremely important. People don't drink enough water. Some people do, but there's a lot of people that I work with that I have to tell them a gallon to 2 gallons, depending on the person, up to 2 gallons of water a day, and they're just not consuming this much water. And that's extremely important for a few reasons, like you said with the sodium, and also it not only does it hydrate your body, it hydrates the muscle, it keeps it anabolic. The more hydrated you are, the more anabolic your muscle is. The more dehydrated you are, the more catabolic your muscle is. It's extremely important to stay anabolic. Always trying to stay in an anabolic state, never in a catabolic state. So water is extremely important, and a lot of people don't drink enough water. I see them in the gym walking around training. They don't have any water with them. Oh, they have one of these. This is what they have walking around. Are you kidding? This after a few sets, this is gone with me after a few sets. So I would be carrying a case of these with me in the gym. I mean, I got a gallon of water with me. Okay, always. I drink a gallon of water. This is what I bring to the gym. Okay, right here. All right, this is what you should be bringing. Now, some people have bottles and stuff, and that's all fine. And if you're going to fill it up quite a few times, fine. But this is convenient, and I know I'm getting enough water, and I'm sipping every time I do a set or a couple of sets. I drink some water. I'm not guzzling to get crampy, to feel a stomach ache, but I drink and I drink. And by the end of my workout, this is a lot of it's gone. Most of it's gone.
And the biggest thing, if you guys watch Matthew Yogis's video on training fasted, the one thing he says is what he does before he trains is make sure he has plenty of water in his body. If he's not having that nutrition, he's definitely going to have enough water in his body.
Yeah, he also trains, I think, first thing in the morning, right?
Yeah,
when he gets up, so he hasn't had any water or food in his system for like 8 to 10 hours. So you're going to go to the gym fasted and without water. I mean, you're going to have a terrible time at the gym at that point.
You got to be hydrated. Like I said, it's more anabolic. The muscle stays anabolic, and like I said, you stay hydrated. You've got to consume. Just have enough water with you in the gym. Don't rely on walking to the bubbler. I see guys training, and girls and guys training, and they go to the bubble and get a sip, and they go back, they go to the bubble and get a sip. Are you kidding me? How much water can you possibly be drinking at the bubble? It's impossible. I'd be sitting at the bubble constantly drinking. I would never get my workout done. So that just doesn't work.
A lot of people cut sodium to get more vascular, and then they realize they're not more vascular. and then the day after the show, they've had pizza the night before or whatever after the show, and they get up in the morning, they're veiny through their legs, and they're vascular, because sodium is what causes vascularity with the water. Like, that's how it works. So everybody's different. You're going to need different amounts of sodium, different amounts of water, but if you've cut your sodium for 12 weeks, you can't expect to be vascular and full on stage. You won't be able to get a pump. You're not going to be vascular. You'll be flat as a board. And I guarantee you Sunday, or if it's a Saturday show, Sunday, Monday or Tuesday is when you're going to look
Sure,
best.
that's why guys look better at the next day after the show.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, like he said, it is different for everybody, and the amount, and I've seen stuff online about sodium loading, and some of the stuff I've seen online, I wouldn't do. I just wouldn't do it. This isn't the way I do things. But it's still this theory. There's still the same, theory behind it of sodium loading before a show, and I have my own way of doing it, but I still do it. And again, it gets the guys nice and full, and they're nice and vascular, and it works. Like I said, and I do it a little differently with a few different people. When I'm working with females, it's a little different. Now, if I'm working with a girl who's in a bikini contest, everything's completely different, because she's doing a bikini show. She's not doing bodybuilding or figures, so obviously that's something separate that we could talk about some other time.
You were saying that you had a story of a kid that he went out in the prejudging, and then you changed something with the sodium, and then when he went out for the night show, the judges actually went up to him and said, "Well, what'd you do?"
He had actually, when I saw his physique that morning, and I knew him for a long time, so I knew he was capable of looking like I knew what he looked like the week before. So when I saw him, I knew he had taken a diuretic, and at that point, I knew that he's missing sodium. Not just the water, but the sodium too. So he was going to win his class, and then he came up, how do I look? How do I look? I was like, dude, he was going on to nationals 6 weeks later. And I said, you're lucky that no one else showed up that was better, because you wouldn't win the class, you wouldn't get your qualification. So it's almost, and you're lacking the sodium, and everybody else was telling him not to have the sodium. Don't do the sodium, because you're going to retain water. So he knew that he was off, and I told him, I said, it was a cheeseburger, fries with extra salt, and a full sugared Coca-Cola. Go eat that and lay down. Don't drink any water with it. And we didn't think he would. Me and Carrie, my girlfriend who's filming this behind the camera, we're actually at a burger joint across the street eating. We saw him come out of the hotel and walk up the street to the burger place and get it and walk back. I said, holy shit, he's going to do it, right? He ate it. Like within an hour later, he called me and said, I look ridiculous. He went to the night show, and the judges had actually asked him, what did you do differently that changed such a dramatic, transformation in your physique? It was the sodium, because we didn't put any water in. The liquid we put in was actually Coca-Cola. But it was the sodium that he was lacking that pulls all that extra water and stuff into the blood itself, gives the blood more volume, that gives you a better pump, fills the muscle out, but at the same time, it somewhat increases blood pressure inside the veins, which gives you the vascularity. So now you have a totally revamped physique in 2 hours, based on a little bit of salt, which was they told him it was going to kill him. You're going to be flat, you're going to be terrible, you're going to be watery, and it was just the opposite when he took it in.
Because people think I'm going to take in salt, they're going to get smooth.
Bloated.
But you got to understand, they're not drinking any water.
Right.
The key is not. Now, if they started consuming a lot of water, if they started consuming sodium before the show and they just started guzzling water because they were thirsty, yeah, then over time something could possibly happen. But they're not drinking any. The key is to consume sodium, but you don't drink any water. You're still not drinking water that day. And that's the key. You can't have any water. So you could consume sodium, but you don't want any water.
That's that phenomenon where people are dieting hard, and then they have a cheat meal, and then after the cheat meal they blow up and they have vascularity everywhere, and like, oh my god, I had a cheat meal, and all of a sudden now I'm looking great, and they're posing in front of the mirror, they look better than they ever had, and they just had all this junk food. It's because their current diet, they're lacking that sodium. And like Steve and Jerry said, just make sure that you keep your water intake up. Sodium isn't your enemy at all. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It was it was lucky that Jerry was here and Steve was available. But we're gonna come out with more of these. Just like I said, we got a little busy. You were off in Florida. What show were you at?
NPC Nationals.
Yep, he was at the Nationals, so we couldn't get together for it. But we're gonna try to come out with these more consistently. And obviously, I made a playlist on them at the bottom of my channel. So look out for those guys. This is Bob from Olympusiron.
Steve Reeves.
BioS3Training.
And this is Bicep of Sodium Isn't Your Enemy.
Out.
Out.
Bicep of Sodium Isn't Your Enemy.